So excited to be here. I think I didn't put it in my intro, but I actually also went to an IB school. So I feel like I'm like getting 15-year flashbacks. But actually in Eswatini, which was at the time called Swaziland, so Southern Africa. So very, very far from London. Cool. I mean, we're going to have an hour today. So I thought we could also just start by you introducing yourselves. So if you say your name and maybe something that you would take to a desert island, like if you needed to. So hi, I'm Kaz. My thing I would take to a desert island is either one or the other. One is practical, one is very impractical. One is something for purifying water. The other would be the complete works of Jane Austen. So maybe we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Matty, and I'll probably take like a boat or something.
I feel like that's a loophole.
Hi, I'm Bax. Going to a desert island. I'll probably take something that I could use to entertain myself because I get bored quick. I don't know what, because I couldn't take a phone, there'd be no service. But like something to entertain myself.
I'm Karoline, and I would take a book to entertain myself.
Should we come back round?
Okay, I'm Theo, and I'd take a crate full of emergency flares.
I'm William, and I'd take the hot dogs from Five Guys, so I don't.
I'm Kai, and I guess I'd take an axe so that I could defend myself to chop down trees to make rafts.
So many practical people in this room. Love it.
I'm Josh. I would take probably my walking.
I'm Fiona, and I'd probably take something to draw with or something.
I'm Patty, and I'd take a private jet.
I'm Sophia, and I would take a helicopter, maybe.
I'm Han, and I would take a lamb shawarma.
I'm Ryan, I would take a lot of water.
I'm Maya, and I would probably take the biggest Bluetooth speaker that I could find.
I'm William. I'm going to take a guitar or maybe a deck of cards.
I'm Ella, and I would take a hot air balloon.
I'm Angie, and I'm gonna take a knife.
Sean, I take a jet ski.
Cool. Great. Okay, cool. I'm going to try, I have to do those things where I pair up like a thing with a person so I can try and remember a bit better. Cool. So, hi. I won't make you do it on the spot. We just did intros.
Keep going.
Cool. Great. So yeah, I mean, I think that was just such a nice introduction, but also I feel like it made it sound like everything in my life had been like, I did this and I did this and I did this, which was not how it felt at the time at all. So please don't feel like it was summarized in a very nice introduction. So yeah, I wanted to kind of just give a little bit of an overview, like a little bit more detail. So I'm Scottish, despite the accent, very strange accent, but grew up in Edinburgh my whole life before I went to high school in Eswatini. I got a scholarship to a school called United World Colleges, which I think maybe some of you are familiar with, but essentially is an organization that came about to try to create cultural understanding through education. So they formed in a lot of places like Southern Africa, Bosnia, kind of areas where there was kind of cultural dissonance, whether that was like war or apartheid, to try to kind of bring together people to create a sense of understanding through kind of feeling like you were all part of the same organization. So it was a really cool 2 years. Nelson Mandela's kids went to my school. So yeah, it was a pretty cool time. I then went to university in America. So I know not many of you are thinking about going to America, but I actually did have a merit scholarship, so it was fully funded for the 4 years. If you want to talk about that, I can talk about that with you. So ended up going to the University of Virginia for 4 years, studying politics. So totally different to everything that I do now, like not related in any way. And I think that's the beauty of a liberal arts education. So did that for 4 years, had an amazing time, did a bunch of journalism, thought I was going to be a journalist. And then was like, oh, journalists don't get paid any money though. So it feels like maybe that's not going to be what I do. Went into kind of strategy consulting, had an internship, was kind of really excited, I guess, by the people that I was working with. Like they were all incredibly intelligent, passionate. And I really liked the idea of being surrounded by those types of people. So was there for 5 years, like used it as a total passport to travel all over the world, moved to Indonesia, lived in Jakarta, went to Bali every weekend, just like surfed, had a great time, moved to Paris, spent some time in Germany, and then eventually came back to London in 2015. So actually like more than 5 years ago, I think 8 years ago now. Went to work for a startup, a fintech startup, with a friend, kind of spent some time there, then went to another startup and kind of have progressed through different types of companies to finding a type of role that was super exciting to me, which is kind of, there's so many different kinds of jobs that I think you don't think about when you are growing up. I remember I did a career aptitude test and they were like, you can be a lawyer or you can be an accountant or you can be a doctor. And I was like, cool, like those felt like very, very fixed professions, right? And it's like kind of obvious, like you look up even from when you're like 1 or 2 years old, you're reading a book and it's like, oh, like there's a doctor, there's a nurse, like, and I think there's so many different types of jobs that you can do that just don't even like cross your mind at that point. So I think for me, I kind of am really excited about the idea of kind of leading big teams and kind of working to do that. And so that's kind of the type of role that I've moved into. And obviously now work at Sofar Sounds, which for those of you who don't know, I think the way I've been kind of roped into doing this, sounds like I was unwilling, but I wasn't, is the founder of Sofar Sounds is a guy called Rafe Offer. We'll talk a little bit about Sofar Sounds later on in the presentation. But he kind of started this company because he felt like so much of the music experience that we were kind of consuming was like people chatting through the performance or watching it through their phones or kind of like filming it, like, and he felt like that was just really not the best environment to consume music, because obviously people are working so hard to kind of hone their craft and they're putting themselves out there for you. And I think he wanted to create a culture and an environment where people were listening and people were kind of respecting the artists and the music and their talent. So he started Sofar Sounds in 2009. Since then, we've grown to like, we're in more than 500 cities all over the world. We have, in the UK, we're across, name a city like London, Manchester, Birmingham, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Bristol, Brighton. I could keep going. And so we're putting on hundreds of events every single day. So like today we've got shows in Tel Aviv, New York, London. There's always like a crazy one where it's somewhere in like the Middle East that's like, so that's kind of what I do now. And I guess like, because I felt like you all are kind of at this point where you're thinking about what you want to do, whether it's at university or kind of longer term, I thought we could do a kind of little exercise and just talk a little bit about, like, I'll walk you through this. It's a really like simple framework for thinking about what are the things that you really like. And I think we talk a lot, or like I talk a lot about with my teams, this idea of working on the things that you love, because, for the person who's like, I want to take, I think it was you who was saying you want to take something to draw with, like when you're on the desert island. She's already drawing, so she's not big, yeah. I think like when you find something that you really love, you are willing to put the time and effort to become really good at it. And I think that's kind of, people don't talk enough about that, I think, when they're talking about what they want to do, because they talk a lot about majors and like jobs and interviews and internships, and all of that stuff is so important, obviously, but you first have to kind of do that work to figure out what the thing you really love is, because the thing that you're going to realize is maybe now you might have like your parents or teachers kind of giving you guidance about what those things are, but you won't have that soon. So it's important to kind of think about what you think for yourself. So I guess there are pens and paper in the middle of the room. I thought if you could work maybe in twos, just because it's a bit easier to kind of chat in twos. We'll take 5 minutes and you kind of think about all of the things that are that you really love, but also you're really good at. So whether it's drawing, whether it's music, whether it's like, sports, and I'll put mine up so you can kind of see as an example, like the things that I put, you can be the judge of whether or not presenting is something I'm good at. The whole point of this is like the things that you are good at, but maybe you hate, are the things that are called, like, you want to try and limit those. Like, you're like, okay, I want to do them, but like, how can I learn to like make my bed as quickly as I possibly can? I saw on your low, like, make my bed as quickly as I can. How can I learn to like make this task take like a short amount of time so it doesn't become my whole life? The things that you hate and you're bad at, unless you really want to be good at it, which actually, if you hate it, you probably don't, like, those are just things that are like, okay, cool, just don't do them. Like, just don't do them. The thing that you love, but you are really bad at, are things that you want to work even harder at, because it's like, ideally you want to become good at those things because you really love them. They give you a lot of energy. They make you really happy. And then obviously the things that you love and are good at, like, I call it like your X. So it's like, how can I keep my life where in the X, right? The things that I'm really good at, the things that I really love, because those are the things that are your passions and the things that are going to be continue to make you excited about going into work every day, about studying, until 3 o'clock in the morning to pass your exam, or about kind of working 100, 200 hours to kind of get really good at music, or get really good at kind of like curating playlists. I think I saw on one of the ones in the back. So that's the kind of thing that you want to make sure you're spending a lot of time doing. So yeah, thanks for kind of working that through, and hopefully kind of gave you a little bit of context, I guess, into how to think about some of the things that you want to be spending your time doing. So yeah, I'm going to take like a quick 10-15 minutes to take you through Sofar, just because obviously I know a lot of people put music on their like list of things that they love. So I think can kind of give you a little bit of context to what I do on a day-to-day basis. So I guess so far where it all started, I gave you a little bit of context. So it really started because Rafe, the founder, who actually started it with a guy called Rocky Start, which I thought, which is kind of obviously he doesn't actually work in the company anymore, but who starts a business with a guy called Rocky Start. He wanted to kind of create this culture where people were really focused on the artist and focused on the music and focused on the room. It started in his living room, really not far from here, Belsize Park. And it started just with friends. Like, he just invited some friends around, and they kind of got some performers, and they had a bit of a party. This is the 3rd ever Sofar show. Picture of the 3rd ever Sofar show. So yeah, I mean, that's like his living room. It's just really casual. And yeah, from there, we're now in 500 cities all over the world. Australia, Sub-Saharan Africa, all across Asia, tons in Europe, tons in North and South America. So kind of all over the world. 40,000 artists, 5 million fans. It's actually 500 cities as of this year. We kind of have 80 Grammy nominees. We have kind of hundreds of shows that are taking place on a monthly basis across the world. Looking at this list, can you guess who has played us so far? I mean, do you recognize any of those faces, I guess? Okay. So I feel like that's maybe a good place to start. Does anyone hazard a guess?
Yeah, we'll guess Jack Harlow.
Jack Harlow's played so far? Yeah, he has. Yeah.
Is that Georgia Smith?
Yep.
Yeah.
She's also played it so far.
Is this a trick question?
It's not. There is one person who hasn't played it so far actually on this page.
Yet.
Well, maybe ever actually. I think now at this point. Now you want to guess?
Is the one who hasn't played Adele?
Yeah, actually. So she applied to play so far, and Rafe said no. So way back in the day, I know. There are actually so many people like that where you're like, was that the right choice? Sam Smith? That's another one. Maybe that was not the best choice. And actually, it does really go to say, you know, we have thousands of applications to play shows every single month, and the thing that we always say is artists constantly evolve. They're constantly finding their sound. They're constantly getting better at whatever it is they do, whether it's, you know, instrumental, vocal. And so someone can apply, you know, the year before and not be accepted, but then they apply the year after and they've kind of really changed their sound or changed their setup or changed kind of how they are kind of showing up on stage. Billie Eilish is one of the ones, the top left, who played when she was 14. So yeah, that's always a bit of a crazy story because obviously she was so famous so young. But even still, we got her before then. So I'm going to play, how is this going to be for sound, do you think?
I think it'll be okay, hopefully.
So Yeba, that's another... She played us so far in New York, and I'm just going to play 45 seconds of this video because it just gives you a sense of what the vibe is at a Sofar show. Obviously, she's gone on to have incredible success, but you could tell even then in the room that she was going to be, it was just an amazing thing to see. So let's see if this is going to work.
Uh-oh.
We're going to see no sound. That's coming in.
You closed the door and lay down next to me. But then I heard you say her name in your sleep. Your dirty secrets too far gone to keep. I'm about to lose my I'm about to lose my mind, my mind, my mind. About to lose my mind, my mind. I think about you all the time.
gonna stop there. I could watch this whole video. I've watched it so many times. Yeah, but I think you could just tell in the room that she was just like, you're hanging on every single note that she's kind of singing. So yeah, another thing that is really special about Sofar is we obviously are working in incredible spaces all over the world. Can anyone guess where this is? No, but it's sort of historic. It is in London, actually, if that's a hint. You might have seen it on the coronation. Yeah, yeah, Westminster Abbey. So we had a show there last year. Then this one. I still think this is the worst of waxwork. Is that maybe a hint? It's Madame Tussauds, yes. This one. Any football fans in the room? North London football team.
Oh, isn't that outside the Spurs stadium?
The roof of Spurs. We're actually doing a show there next month, and they like strap you into this because you obviously have to wear a harness to walk up to the roof. So you get strapped into this harness, you walk up, and like everyone has to be seated for the show. Otherwise, obviously, you know, it's a roof. This one. Yep. Yeah, really beautiful. I'm going to have to remind myself of what it is. Now I'm like, oh, wait, how do I put that? I feel like I've exited out of this, sorry. How do I put that? That's still work? That's fine. Well, actually, I'll come back to that one because I actually can't remember what it is. This one? Anyone? Cool. So I guess I've kind of talked about all the famous people who have played us so far. Who would you like to see in your living room? I'm going to shout it out. It doesn't have to be just off the cuff. Who? Kent Carson? Oh, I don't know any of these people. I'm going to have to write this down. Cool. Post Malone. Strokes. I feel like there's so many like retro. Playboy Cardi. Okay, cool. Drake. Yeah. I think we'd all like to see Drake up close.
Little Sims.
Cool. Yeah, she's great. Amazing. Well, yeah, I mean, Eminem. God, this is so interesting. Cool. Well, yeah. So, I mean, I've spoken a lot about it. Kind of told you the types of artists you might see, the types of venues that you might be in. I wanted to give you all a free ticket. So they send this around after. This is a code to use at the end of the summer. So if you don't have any summer plans, feel free to come to a show. I'd love to see you there. So, yeah. I know, yeah. I'm sure you can send this around after, right? So they have it. Yeah. Okay.
Since there's only one code, that means the first one to use it.
No. It's one code. You can each use it once. So it's like one code. Cool. Yeah. I mean, I think we've got lots of time, like 20 minutes for questions. So, yeah, down to answer any and all questions, whether it's about career, whether it's about Sofar, whether it's about university. I also applied to university in the UK and the US if anyone wants to chat about that.
What do you find the most challenging working at Sofar Sounds?
Yeah, good question. I think this is maybe a boring answer, but I think it's really difficult. It can be really difficult to prioritize because it's like you could be doing so many different things, and we have so many exciting things happening. Like we have a show at Madame Tussauds coming up in a few weeks, but we're also doing a new late night format, which is kind of going to be like a DJ vibe, also later in the month. So there are just so many things that are happening, and I think it's just me staying focused, because I obviously just get really excited about a lot of these ideas, but also kind of keeping the team focused to make sure that they aren't feeling like overwhelmed basically by all of the different things that are going on. So that's probably the toughest thing.
So in the images you showed, the venue seemed very small and very personal. So, but you mentioned that a lot of like big singers have performed. So how do you get like people to perform in such small venues?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is about, we have people who are performing before they're playing such big venues, right? So it's like we get Billie Eilish before she's won her multiple awards and has headlined Coachella and Glastonbury and all the rest of it. So I think what we're really good at, and what we kind of built this brand around, is being able to spot talent early, and have them kind of playing Sofar, coming to shows, being part of the community. So it's kind of, it very much is what we call in the industry an underplay. So it's like they're playing in a room which is smaller than the room that they might have played in normally. But it is still kind of at the point where they're earlier in their career, so it's not quite the same. But yeah, all of our shows, I mean, some of our shows are big-ish, but never really much more than a few hundred people.
So you've met like the celebrities, right?
I actually haven't met any of those people. I mean, I have, because I did work at another music company before. I have met some artists.
Which one's
hip
the
hop.
nicest?
Is anyone into Afrobeats in the room? Done a lot of Afrobeats stuff. Yeah. Some of there's one artist. Oh my god, I can't now. I'm totally blanking her name. So I've just got such like mind blank. Some of, who did I meet the other day, like in last year? Why am I blanking? Is it Ludacris? Don't know. Early, that's sort of hip hop 90s vibe. I don't know whether that's like going to resonate. I feel like there are a lot of people who are not nice, but I'm not going to say on camera. I don't know where this recording is going. Justin Bieber's not nice, but I think everyone knows that.
So when you were majoring in politics, have any of the things that you learned in your liberal arts university been things that you've now applied to your job, or are these things that you learn on the job?
Yeah. I think there's loads of learning on the job. So I think there's definitely a sense when you first start kind of working that you have to know everything, but actually no one knows everything, and that's the real joke. But I think a lot of the things which I learned are around like problem solving, communication, working with people, group projects. I think all of that is stuff which I've been able to take from kind of school or university and kind of apply to work. But so much of work is learning on the job. It's funny. It's almost like you're in school, I mean, high school, and you have these really regimented exams. And even though the IB is a bit more of an expansive curriculum, it's still like you sit a test at the end of 2 years, and that's kind of the way that it's structured. And then you move on to university and it's even more unstructured. And then you move on to work and it's just, as I said at the beginning, which is why that exercise is really important. No one's telling you the right answer. There's no A star. There's no D. There's no 7, 6, 5, whatever. It's really, you have to be the person who says, is this something I'm enjoying? Is this something that is good for me? And yeah, you might get appraisals and all the rest of it, but ultimately it's like, it's up to you to decide whether or not it's something that you want to do. No one's going to tell you to come into work every morning. If you don't come into work, you'll be fired. So that's it.
do you think that like so far it helps artists that wouldn't be recognized otherwise be recognized?
Yeah, I do think one of the things that is really interesting about Sofar, which we didn't talk about lots because the artists that I showed you were kind of quite mainstream in nature, right? They're kind of essentially pop stars. We do have a huge amount of diversity at Sofar, which is kind of why it's so exciting. So you might go to a show and you're seeing an artist who is a classical trio, and then you might see an artist who's an R&B singer, and then you might see another artist who is a singer-songwriter, and not all of them have varying degrees of what we call commerciality, right? It's like, the classical trio is probably not racking up billions of streams on Spotify realistically. So I think what we do provide is a platform for showcasing the diversity within music, which sometimes is underappreciated because it's not necessarily as sellable to everyone in sort of mainstream culture. Yeah.
The overhead seems like a lot. You're paying for venues, you're not selling that many seats.
Yeah.
How is this so financially viable?
Yeah, so we actually don't pay venues. So so the venues are offering their space for free. So that obviously is a big kind of quite important to the whole business. And then we kind of have a very flexible business model. But yeah, so it is definitely one of those things where you need scale. It's not just if you were just doing 5 shows, it doesn't really work. But at the point in which you're doing hundreds, it starts to work because you've kind of achieved that scale. And I think what we've been so great about is, in London, we're doing 80 shows a month. So even though across the UK we might be doing kind of 120, 130, the vast majority are in London, which allow you to obviously have that sense of scale.
So how many people are working for you, like that you're overseeing?
In the UK team?
Yeah.
Oh God, it's like, I never really count, so I feel like maybe I should. Birmingham, Brighton, Leeds, Edinburgh. And 3, the 2. So I have a core team of 11 people, and then we have the people who are actually delivering the events on the ground. It's probably about 100. So 111, 110.